Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be doing a comprehensive run through of Sharesies. This video will teach you how to become an expert using their platform to buy, sell and track your investments. Now this is the first installment in a no-nonsense series where we look through all the investing platforms available to Australian and New Zealand investors. So make sure you subscribe down below to see the others in the series, including Hatch, Stake and Kernel, among others. Let's get into it. So when we first go to the Sharesies homepage, the first number that we can see is the portfolio value. And this is simply saying what is the value of our stocks and our funds at a certain point of time. Now this number excludes any cash that you might have sitting around, which will be seen in your wallet, which we'll go through shortly. When we look below the portfolio value, we can see a chart. And this is a useful tool for us to see how our portfolio has changed in time. If you look at the pink line, that is the amount that our portfolio is worth, or our portfolio value. And the dotted line is the amount that we've put in, and you can see that definition just down here. Now something to keep in mind is that this is 20 minutes delayed, so if you're looking during a trading day, this will be from the past 20 minutes. Now below the chart we see three different numbers, the first of which is the total return, and this is the dissection of how we get to the returns that we have, in my case $2,800, and we can see what that is made up of. So if we click on any of these, we can see a definition of each of these items. The first is unrealized gains, and this is simply stocks or funds that we currently own, where we've made a gain and we haven't sold that to realize that gain. Realized, of course, is where we've sold that instrument and made the loss or gain and locked it in. The next items are the currency gains and losses. Now, unrealized is where we currently own stock, say in Australian dollars or United States dollar, and we haven't sold that to realize those currency gains or losses. So what we can see is that I've lost a little bit of money by investing in US shares on a currency perspective. So the New Zealand dollar has strengthened versus the US dollar, and they're not worth as much when we convert them back. When we look at the realized currency gains, this means that I've sold stock at a time when the United States dollar was at a price premium versus the New Zealand dollar, or has appreciated. So I've actually made a gain here. The next item we can see is the transaction fees, which is the amount that we've paid Sharesies to both buy and sell instruments. And below that we have dividends, which is basically where a company has made a profit and they're sharing some of that with us as shareholders. So that is the total return. If we look at the simple return, what we're looking at here is what is the profit I've made from Sharesies and what is the total amount that I've had invested. Now you'll see that this amount is bigger than what is down here at 47,000. It's actually using 70,000 in the calculation. And this is because I've withdrawn a bit of money from my Sharesies accounts. So I don't trust this too much, but it is a good gauge of where we're sitting. And the last item is what we've put in. And this is the amount of money that I've actually put into Sharesies. So this is a combination of what's in my wallet, but then also what's in my portfolio value as well. Below those three numbers, we have investing activity. And this will be showing us some of our more recent activities on the platform. So as you can see, one of my most recent activities is purchasing a bit of Vulcan steel. And this is where I set up a purchase order for $25. So this is a good way of seeing what transactions actually went through, and we can see the price they went through, what transaction fees we paid, and any other information relating to that transaction. And below the investing activity, we can see the amount in our wallet. Now this is our wallet, or our cash that we currently have in Sharesies that hasn't been invested. So we can see how this is broken down by currency. So we have a bit of New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar, and US dollar. In my case, I don't have any Australian dollars. Something useful here is that we can hover over a foreign currency and we can see the translation into New Zealand dollars at that point in time. For example, my US wallet is around 2,400 New Zealand dollars and it is around 1,700 US. So the first selection we have here is exchange money, and this is where we can move our foreign currency back into New Zealand dollars. And this is important if we want to withdraw any money because everything must be in New Zealand dollars. So if we put in here, for example, $1 US, we can see that we can get 1.43 New Zealand dollars. And we can see the exchange rate down here. And if we hover over that, we can see that it's the latest price. Once we click exchange, we'll see a breakdown of transaction fees and what the exact rate is that we're getting as well. And once you confirm this transaction, it is instantaneously changed into New Zealand dollars, which is pretty rare in the market as companies like Hatch, you have to wait a couple days for this to take place. And if we're happy with this to go ahead, we click confirm exchange. The second option we have here is to top up with bank transfer. Now this is how most people, including myself, put money into Sharesies, as it's free to do and very quick. So if you bank with ASB, it'll generally take about an hour or two. If you're with other banks, it could take a little bit more than this, but generally if you deposit money, it will turn up in your account within a few hours. So what most people do is they put these details into their internet banking, for example a reference number and account number, to ensure that the money is sent directly to Sharesies and you don't have to put this in every time. You can also set up automatic payments if you want to deposit money into Sharesies on a regular basis as well. And this is something that many of us do. Whenever we receive our paycheck fortnightly, the money goes straight into our Sharesies wallet, and this allows us to invest on a regular basis. Another option is topping up with card. However, if we put in an example $10 here, what we'll see is that there is a 46-cent card processing fee, which is 4.6%, which is pretty material if you're moving a few $1,000s across. Now, you should only do this if you're really desperate to put your money into the market, as by topping up your wallet via card, the money turns up straight away. So generally I wouldn't recommend this, but it depends on your personal circumstances. Now on the screen we can either use our saved card, which we can set up in settings, or we can simply put in the card details down below, with all the major cards supported. Another option here is create top-up goal, and this is something that Sharesies introduced for people that want to invest on a regular basis. Now for me this isn't as important as I have the self-discipline to move money myself. However, if you want to gamify and try to make it a bit more fun, this could be a perfect way of doing that. Now if you received a gift card from somebody, you can use the redeem a gift option, and you can simply put the code in here, if you're so lucky. And the last option, and probably the most important, is withdraw. Now as you can see, I have $678 available in my wallet, and this is in New Zealand dollars. As we said before, if you have United States dollar or the Australian dollar, you'll have to transfer these into New Zealand dollar first before you can withdraw. And you can do this simply by using the exchange money function that we went through earlier. So here you simply put in the amount you want to withdraw, you check the bank account details are correct, and if it's a different one, you simply use this button here. And once you're happy with that, you can click the withdraw button. And generally I find the money turns up in your account either the same day or the next day. And as we scroll down, we can see our transaction history. And here you'll find any activities you've done that relate to the wallet. For example, you've exchanged some money, you've withdrawn some money, you've made a purchase, you've made a sale. You'll find all those details here, ordered by recency. So that concludes the things that we can do on the wallet page. Now it's important as well to highlight that we can either click this button here, or we can go to our sidebar and click wallet, and it will arrive at the same destination. So on the portfolio page, if we continue scrolling, we'll see all of our investments, and we can either filter this or sort. So if we wanted to filter our investments, we can do this by risk, country, or type. And depending on our filter, we can use these buttons here to filter our selections by higher risk, medium risk, or lower risk. For the risk example, we can also click this button here, and it will show us the breakdown of those different selections. So we can also look at country, and you can see the majority of my investments are in New Zealand, and you can also use type, and you can see the majority of my investments are in individual companies. The other option we have is sorting, and we can do this by alphabetical order. We can do this also by our returns, highest or lowest, and we can do it by investment value, or the amount that we have in our portfolio, highest to lowest. So that summarizes everything that we can do in our portfolio page. So the next thing we have access to is the invest page. Now if we click here, we can find anything that we want to put our money into. For example, we might want to look for main freight. And if we click on there, we can find the main freight page. Now if you look here, you can see all the information relating to the companies or funds. You can also find different tags. So we can see this as a company on the New Zealand Stock Exchange in the transport sector. We can also see how the price has changed over time. And any of these red dots is basically where we've made an investment or a sale. And depending on our time horizon, we can also see when the price was at its lowest and when it was at its highest to evaluate if we're paying, say, $80, where that lies within the last 6 months of price movement. And we can see that main freight has reduced in price by 11.7%. As we scroll down from there, we can see the transaction fees for purchasing main freight stock. And if we click on here, we can see a breakdown of this. $3,000 is the threshold. Anything below that, we pay 0.5%. Anything above that, we pay 0.1%. And this would be our transaction fee for Sharesies. As we go across, we can see the gross dividend yield of 1.7%. And if we click on this, we can simply see when the dividends have been paid. So the ex-dividend date is simply the date in which they take a list of all the shareholders and work out who receives what dividend. And the dividend per share is how much you receive if you own the share on that date. Now out of this will come your tax and things like that as well. So this is the gross, not the net. Underneath that we have the PE ratio, and you can click here to see the definition of that, and also the market capitalization, or the valuation for the company. Down from there we can see the risk level. Now as we know, this is an individual company, the price can swing greatly in either direction, so this is a risk level 7. However, if we invest in shares, we generally know that we're investing in something that could go up or down. So for me this isn't much of a consideration. As we scroll up, we also have the option of looking at your investment, and this is a way of looking at the profitability of your trades in this company. In my case, for example, you can see that I've put $2,000 of my own money into the company, and it currently has a value of $2,300. The total return is 487. However, this is made up of dividends as well, so this looks a bit higher than investment value minus the amount that I've put in. And if we click on that, we can see the breakdown of how we got this profit. You can also see your simple return and the number of shares you currently own. So currently I own 28.57 Mainfreight shares. When we go down from there, we can see the investing history. So the grey line is the amount that we've put into Mainfreight, and the pink line is what our portfolio value is. If the pink line is above the grey line, it means we're in a profit position. Other way around means we've made a loss. And as we scroll down, we can see the highs and lows in price, what the average price has been, and any activities that relate to our investment in Mainfreight. So as you can see, you can select buys, sells, or dividends, and everything will show up here. Now if we go back to the overview, pretend we've done our analysis and we're willing to invest in Mainfreight. What we can do is we can click this buy button down here, and this will bring up two selections that we can choose from, either a market buy or a limit buy. Now this is two different ways of purchasing a stock. Market buy is where we'll transact no matter what the price is when it comes to Monday. Today's Sunday, so the market opens on Monday. And we can check this by clicking up here, and we can see that at 10 AM, that market order will likely go through. Limit buy is where we set a price that we're willing to pay for Mainfreight. So pretend the price is currently $81 and the maximum we want to pay is $80. We can set up this limit order. However, we're not guaranteed that this will go through, as it depends on the price going down when it comes to Monday. So if we select market buy, we can simply say the amount we want to purchase, click review, and it will come up with our transaction fees. And if we're happy with this, we click buy. However, if we want to do a limit buy, we can simply select that here, and then we put in the maximum price we want to pay, using this reference as a guide. So the most recent price was $81, and if we want to pay a maximum price of $80, we can set the amount that we want to put in, say $10. And once we're happy with that, we can press review, and this will tell us the approximate amount of shares that we'd purchase, the amount we'd invest, and the transaction fee, all of which add up to $10. And if we're happy with that, we press the buy button. Now if we've already got some shares in Mainfreight and we decide we want to sell them, we can do that the same way using the sell button here. Now what we can see is we have the limit sell and the market sell options here as well. The market sell is that we just want to sell the shares at whatever price it is on Monday. If we select limit sell, it means that we can set a minimum price at which we want to sell. For example, if the current price is 81 and we want to sell at 85, once the price hits 85, that sell order will trigger. So it means we can lock in the price we want to receive. So if we look at market sell, we simply say how many shares we want to sell. In this case, I've put 1. We click review. It'll come up with the transaction fees, the amount that we're selling, and the value, and we click sell. However, if we want to do a limit sell, we can select that here as well. We can say we want to set it at 85. We want to sell all of our shares. We click review, and it will come up with that transaction. So we can see what our fees would be, and we can also see the amount that we're willing to sell. When we're happy with that, we press sell. So that summarizes everything that we can do within those company pages, but let's go back to the invest screen. So now that we're back to the invest screen, let's look at some of the filters that we can use. So this is how we screen the market. So that's where we take the total number of investments on Sharesies, which is 8,300, and limit this to only the ones that we're actually interested in. For example, we might be interested in US-based ETFs in the banking sector. So we can do that by clicking ETFs, Banking and Finance, and selecting the US stock markets. And what we can see is that there are 12 investments that meet this criteria. So if we click Show 12 Investments, this shows us everything that's in the banking sector, is an ETF, and is based in the US. So what we can see here is a collection of different Vanguard, SPDR, Direction, iShares, and ARK investments. So if we use sort, we can use different attributes for these investments. For example, we can look at the highest price change, the highest annual returns, or the highest dividends. However, market cap is a good guide of what are the biggest ones that are likely to have a lot of liquidity. Now, if we're not ready to invest right at this moment, we can also set up a watch list, which is where we can select our favorites from this by clicking on the star there. And this means that it's added to our watch list. So we'll come to that shortly. So that's a great way for us to screen the market. Now, this could be useful if there's something specific that you're looking for. For example, socially responsible companies, could be something in banking, could be something in tech. This is just a useful tool for us to use if we're ever looking for something to put our money into. Now below the filters, there's a number of different options that Sharesies has available here. The first I want to show is the help screens. So this is something that Sharesies has set up to teach you the basics of using the platform. So if you go down here, you can find a lot of useful information. And this is useful if there's something that doesn't make sense in this video, or there's something very specific on Sharesies that you want to look up. this can be a great place to go to, particularly if you're new to the platform. Something else useful here is the auto invest feature. And this is where you can tell Sharesies to make an investment on your behalf every week. And this encourages dollar cost averaging or investing on a regular basis. Now Sharesies have a couple pre-made orders here that you have to select from. The global order is where you can invest basically right across the world. You can invest in Europe, Asia, New Zealand, Australia, and the US. And they also have a responsible order auto invest, which is where you can invest in these funds that make it their primary objective to invest in things that are great for the environment and great for the world. And if you wanted to invest in one of these, you simply press auto invest in this order and you say how much you want to invest, when you want to invest, and when you want it to start. So for example, if you want to invest $10, you want to invest every week and you want it to start tomorrow, you can simply put the details in just like this and press this button down here. And that'll set that up. So every week on a certain date, it sets that order up for you. So that means that simply you'll be investing on the 21st of March, on the 28th of March, and all the dates after that in weekly increments. However, it won't require any action from your side apart from making sure you have enough in your Sharesies wallet so that that order can go through. The other way we can do this is setting up our own DIY order. And if we go through, we can simply select auto invest in this order, and we can select what we want to be a part of that portfolio. So if we want the top 3, for example, we can select them as so, click select funds, and we can say what weightage we want. So we can change this to say 50% and 25% in the other 2. Once we're happy with that, we can press next, and we can do the same as what we did just before, saying how much we want to invest, when we want to invest, and when we want it to start. So that's some of the main features here in the invest screen. If we scroll down, we can see our watch list that we set up earlier, which is where we screen for ETFs that are in the banking sector. So we can see here the 3, and that means that in the future we can track the price movements, and at a later time we can make that investment. You also have the option here of looking at recently viewed, and that's where you might have looked at something previously, forgot to watchlist it, and you want to refer back to it. So that summarizes everything we can do on the invest screen. Now we spoke about earlier looking at some of the help screens. We also have this question mark up above, and if we click on that we can send our request through to Sharesies, and they typically respond within 24 hours. We can also search for help. So for example, if we're confused about how to sell an investment, we can simply type sell, and it should come up with this page for us, such as selling an investment. So this is useful if we're ever stumped, and Sharesies can help us out this way. So let's now look at Share the Aroha, and this is where we can encourage more people to get into investing. The first is by buying them a gift card, if they're a great friend, lucky them, or we could refer a friend. And this is where you can set up a referral code. So if somebody signs up using your code, you get $5 and they get $5 as well. Now if anybody watching this is new to Sharesies and they want to get started, please use this code here. What this means is that you'll get a free $5 to get started, and it also sends $5 my way, so thank you for that. And the last option we have in the sidebar is settings, and this is where we can find any information relating to our portfolio and our personal information. For example, we have our personal details here, which is looking at our email, our phone number, our address, citizenship, and some questions around why we're investing. And if any of these need to be updated, you can simply do that on the screen. You also have information around bank accounts, and this is where you can set up your bank accounts and your cards that are going to be used for your portfolio. The bank account is useful for when you're making withdrawals, so you know where the money is going, and the cards is useful if you're topping up with a card. And if any of these change, you can do so on this page. The next option is notifications, and this is just where you can turn off the marketing emails from Sharesies. The next option is portfolio, and this is where we can change some of the calculations around our sold investments and calculating the return, but we can also connect our Sharesies account to ShareSite. And this is useful for some investors that have a lot of investments and they want to track these. So if that's something you're interested in, you can simply click this button here or look at some of its pricing options. We can also change our password here, and we can also look at some of our securities. So Sharesies offer two-factor authorization, which is where you log in normally, but you also have a text message as well. And this is just an extra layer of security if that's something that you're interested in. We can also change our tax details here. One of the main ones here is your prescribed investor rate. For me, it's at 28%. However, if you don't know, Sharesies offer something here around just answering some questions, and that'll estimate your PIR rate. You'll also put your IRD number in here, as Sharesies pay tax on your behalf in most cases, and change your tax residency if that ever were to change. Now, if you have a tax accountant, there's also the option here around tax statements, so you can download those if that's something that you require. You also have the option to transfer shares, and this is where people want to take their shares out of Sharesies. For most people this won't be an issue, however if you want to move your shares into a different holding account and pay a simple fee to do so. We also have the option of looking at reports, and we can select the time horizon when it starts and finishes, if we ever wanted to look at our transaction history. So here we have two report types. We have our investment report, which is a PDF, and our transaction report, which is a CSV file, which can be opened using Excel. Now the final option, and something cool that Sharesies does if you have kids, is they have a kids account. Now this is an account that's separate to yours, and it means that you can set money aside for your children separate to your own portfolio. All you need to do around this is submit proof of their identity and their IRD number, and you can set this up very easily. So that's some of the main settings that we can configure. If we go down, we can see terms and conditions, different policies for Sharesies. But one of the last things they have here is the NZX market depth. What the market depth shows is the order book. So that's the different prices that people are willing to buy at and the different prices people are willing to sell at. So if you're moving a large amount of shares, you might have to search for a higher price to get the liquidity that you're looking for. However, for most investors, this won't be required. And the last thing that we can do here is we can close our account. So if we ever want to close, we can simply click that button down at the bottom. So guys, that summarizes everything that you can do on the Sharesies platform. If you like this video, please like the video down below, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see future videos in this series where I look through all the different investing platforms in New Zealand, and you can see how some of the other platforms function as well before you sign up to them. So thanks for watching guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.